Hello, sports fans. Mauricio here. Well, we're going to implement the stored procedures now, the six of them, each running its own group by query to analyze customer purchases, product sales, summaries, totals by week, totals by day of week. I dreamt up a frequent flyer report, what customers are buying all the time and what customers are buying what particular products. Your worth as a analyst is coming up with new ways of looking at data. I mean, that's one of the important things. Uh, Anyway, so I made you a picture. So now we have a lot to deal with. So before we just had our database and we made our stored procedures in here. And this is 2025. So of course these numbers are different every semester. But you had your database account accessed through SSMS, and you wrote stored procedures that do wonderful things. Insert updates, maybe deletes, and certainly compiling data with the select statement. Now we want to pull that data into a web page or use a web page to work with the human. You have to admit it was pretty weird to execute a stored procedure by typing execute and setting all the input parameters. I mean, it works and it's good for testing. But now we're going to use a web page that's going to just make it all feel a lot more normal. So now we have two servers to deal with. But aren't you lucky you don't have to worry about any passwords? In prior semesters, we had a separate password for this and a separate password for that. But now the IT fellow has streamlined it. So now you have a ASP.NET account in a web space. The IT people call it IIS. I guess that's what Microsoft calls it. But we're using Visual Studio.NET. Came out in about 2003, piece of billion-dollar software made in Seattle. And inside Visual Studio.NET, which, by the way, Visual Studio does an amazing number of different things. We're going to use it for web pages because it's just very simple. Hey, Featherman, why don't you use something else? Well, this is an intro class. Why don't you use Python? Well, this is an intro class. I want to get the most work done with the fewest lines of code. And I'm going to use this nice system that Microsoft made. And after this course, if you want to learn some other system of maybe Python calling a stored procedure, etc., go ahead. But the way I'm teaching it with Visual Basic code inside an ASP.NET web page, which is part of the Visual Studio.NET platform, which connects very, very nicely to your SQL Server database. So let's step back here. This is a Microsoft product connecting to a Microsoft product. Of course, they made it easy and fast and secure and stable and scalable. So we're just using all this free Microsoft technology, and you're lucky you weren't learning this 20 years ago when everything was harder. So you have an ASP.NET web page or web account now. It's also on DevStation 6 this current semester. And Eric used this 2257 first name dot last name. Mine is just / space Featherman, but this semester it's 2257. I'll have to ask him about that. First name dot last name. I provided a list, but again, we're logging into our ASP.NET account to connect to your SQL Server database, and we're using these ADO.NET objects, active data objects, like a command. and a connection. So we're going to, in the web page, we're going to run a command that executes the stored procedure over the connection. And I've showed that code in the last video. I'll show it again. But I thought a picture would help here, wrap your brain around this. So we're using ADO.NET objects, which is a set of classes inside ASP.NET, but we're using ADO.NET objects, SQL command, SQL connection, SQL data adapter, data table, etc., etc. We're using these, if you want to just say ASP.NET objects, to connect over the web to the to your database. So that's the whole idea. So the web page, we're going to write commands that run over a connection, and those commands run over the connection are going to be received by the database, and then the database is going to run the, we're saying, hey, run the store procedure, and the database is like, okay, we ran the store procedure, and it, maybe, well, what we're doing right now is returning a data set. Maybe the store procedure in the next module is save data or update data, etc. But for right now, we are running store procedures that each have a SQL select group by statement, which creates a data set. So the store procedure is the one that was requested is gonna be run, and the data set, is gonna be passed back to the web page. So the store procedure runs, the original data is unchanged, and your store procedure on your database, which of course you should test first, the data set returned back over the web is returned back to the web page. So you get a data set, could be 20 rows, could be 200 rows, could be lots more than that. So the data set is returned to the web page, and now you have to worry about how many columns, because how wide is this thing? So you have to be judicious about how many columns and how many rows you return, because it's going to scroll up the screen and be too wide for the screen, etc. But we're going to run the store procedure. It's going to return a data set, and the data set is going to be hosted and put into an array. So when we say data adapter dot fill this data table, or the store procedure is just gonna return a data set, and we'll display that on the web page. So we're gonna return a data set. We're gonna stick it in this array. Microsoft calls it a data table. So and then the data table is displayed. A data table is an in-memory array, which you can't see, can't touch, but you can, if you put the array inside a grid view, then you can see it, and that's what we're doing here. Takes a while to talk about this stuff. So I would, if I were you, really focus on the glossary and the names of things first before you worry about writing code. So anyway, so this is Visio. So what do you think? When I did my file new, I picked I think a network diagram, and that had these nice little icons here, and I drew this for you. And so we really should be using Visio to draw a data model, to draw a flow chart, to draw a swim lane diagram, which is a flow chart that has different lanes across the page, by department, I guess. So yeah, you may think this is a programming class, but I think it's a business process reengineering class. Let me write you a procedure and web page to handle that employee transaction, and then you write the store procedure to help the employee not screw up so much, data entry constraints, etc. And you automate lots of things to make the employee more productive and less error prone. Anyway, it's nice to have Visio there. All right, so here we go. One of the first things I wanted to do here, though, is to talk about. We have an init procedure, which you could either type in, which is the name of the class file, Shopify video. You do not want to change that. So it's just the initialization file for this web page called FA25 Shopify video. When we did add the item, I was very careful to name it. That's always a slow one. I was very careful to name it whatever. Oh boy, there's an error. When it pops up here, then you can't get rid of it. Well, we'll see if I can. But I was very careful to name it there because you do not want to rename these things. So there you go. Now I have this thing up here. All right, so I did reboot. So this init file, that means this code is only going to run when the web page starts up for the first time. Aren't there other times when we might want to refresh all our grid views? Yes. So watch this. So by the way, this is a procedure that's, they call it an event procedure that runs in response to this event, which means this web page, initialization event. Other procedures are not tied to any event. So you just call it and run it anytime you want. So that's what we're going to do here. So private sub, let's see, what do we call this? Refresh grid views. All right. And I'm going to pull all this code out of here. And put it in here. And maybe I'll call it refresh summary. I don't know. That's a good enough name. All right, so now this code, refresh grid views, we're going to call that. You don't have to use the word call, but I think it's kind of reminiscent of a bygone error. You know, go to and call this procedure. All right, so what's going to happen now? Any time we want, we can refresh the grid views. So we're going to refresh the grid views when we start up a web page. We can refresh the grid views after we enter a sale or move data around or anything like that. So that's actually pretty helpful. I'm going to put this in its own region called utility code. Watch this, it's a pain. Yeah, see, I put two quote. All right, so we just put the, again, these regions are great. And we'll put that down there. And I guess this is code, and I'll keep throwing more code in here. Code that runs behind the scenes. And so when the program gets turned on, we're going to run that, I call it a general procedure. And the good idea there is that we can run this procedure anywhere. And so write once, run many. We can run that from many different places. So, you know, you've got a really good idea of what we're trying to do. Sadly, these videos take a long time. We'll see you in the next one.